Okay, we're going to cover just a little bit here. Now, what we have here in California is really coming down further and further. We have more and more citizens that are out of the state. They're scared to death. They're worried for their families. They're buying firearms as fast as they can. They're buying lots and lots of bullets. They believe that a civil war is imminent in this nation. They're tired of the California War. They're tired of these people, Newsom and Julie Sue and Shirley Weber and Bonta, lying about what they're doing as they declare war, and they run demographic weapons. They're running around attacking and destroying people's lives with demographic weapons. Now you'll hear them say, oh, well, we're going to go over this area, and then they're going to go, we're only going to tax these people. Oh, then we're going to go over and tax these people. None of this is really authorized by the people. And then they're going to sit there and keep lying to people and tell them different stories. Oh, well, we have a new idea. We only need a little tiny bit more money. It's okay. And then you have the threat territory. The threat territory of, well, if you don't do it our way, we'll put you on a blacklist. And that means that when the next round of demographic taxation comes through, they're going to create different types of taxes, and you'll end up in one of those tax groups. So that's one of the ways they can get at you. Now, here's the tragedy. The tragedy is that every time these people reconstruct these new demographics to go after people to destabilize their lives, it's an understanding they know that they are destabilizing people's lives. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, they absolutely know they are destabilizing people's lives, that they're destabilizing businesses, people's lives. Now, here's the big one. What happens with those, when you have millions and millions of people, what happens with those fluke situations where your particular demographic just happens to reappear again and again and again in certain demographic territories? So you end up with people with an overlapping series of demographics where they're getting taxed again and again and again. And you have taxation areas that go up. You have people that are like, what's going on? I'm in the 300% tax bracket, exit the state, they want this 20%, they want 20% of your wealth or something like that. All this, they're putting a tax in on savings, a fixed amount, and then 5% a year. But how can you do 5% a year? Because how many savings accounts pay 5% a year? Which means, boom, they just nuked out. They just completely nuked out the idea of your savings. How can somebody sit down and do that and say, yeah, we'll just do this. We'll just do this. Let me explain this to you. None of these people's addressing when they state that there's a state emergency, there's no emergency. They're lying. They are lying. The only emergency they have is a crackhead emergency. They have to run around and collect as much money they can to cover their butts. They want to buy new dope, and the new dope is this, that, the other thing, whatever it is, and it's part of their crime spree. And now all of a sudden you have the federal government coming in and catching them on their crime spree. And things are starting to get to the point where money's going to get seized. Money on large scales is going to be seized by the federal government. They're going to come in and say, no, we're grabbing this fund, we're grabbing that fund. Who are all these people? We're going to examine this. What's going on? And so you have these people desperately trying to scramble for money. This is why you have people that start investigating things and say, I'm looking at numbers, and the numbers are coming out different, and maybe this goes to $500 billion in fraud. All kinds of secret taxes and secret tax funds, and you can't even get a total disclosure from the state on how much money they're grabbing and how many different ways they're grabbing it. Because there's other things they're doing. You got people saying, oh, well, did you know that they're selling stuff? Yeah, they're selling your data, they're selling this other stuff, this and that. So there's operations that are sucking money in that are non-declared operations, which is kind of fascinating, So, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't keep track of all of the different claims that many of these people are making. not without my fleet being restored, not without all my computers being restored. See, part of the function of the programs of my fleet, of my archive, the computers, is to deal with things to understand demographic warfare, because these people are good at it. They're really good at it. And they're committing mass genocide. It's that overlapping point. What do you do when you have people that, they now have an overlapping point? They're in the 300% tax bracket. Their response is, oh, we're sorry. Why don't you go talk to these people? It's a runaround. It's a huge runaround endlessly. And, this is something where you can't do that. You can't deliberately engineer a 300% tax bracket, and they do. It gets worse than that. You have people that are in the 400% tax bracket, 500, 600%, 1,200%. I've looked at different cases. You have people that are in the 5,000% tax bracket. This is one of the reasons you have people evacuating California. There's a whole bunch of people they left. They ended up discovering all of a sudden that they were in a massive overlapping demographic attack situation. We're talking major weaponization. And they're like, there's no way I can survive. I'm going to have to evacuate immediately. So that's what they do. They go ahead and they evacuate. So as these people keep making different laws, and they urge all of these smaller towns and governments to make more laws, and they twist people's arms. Well, we're going to pull funding or this or that. But tell you what you can do. Tell you what, we want you to do this. We would like you to do this, or this, or something else is going to happen, and it's really weird. They'll sit there and go, oh, well, look, we'll help out with your homeless problem. Here's all this money. But by the way, here's the string package. Here's the string package of how we want you to do it. What we want you to do is destroy the demographics of local businesses. And this is the kind of stuff they'll do. It's like, you want me to do what? Yeah, we want you to destroy the accommodation hotels where you have people showing up for financial events. What does this mean? That means there'll be no more places for people to stay at when the financial events come to town. That means they're going to have to end up canceling the financial events. You understand the demographic attack here, that they're designing a mechanism to literally destroy people having commerce fairs. They don't want you to have any commerce fairs. They don't want you to do things to stimulate business. And they're going to lie about it. They'll lie about it right to your face. And they'll keep constantly coming up with these other deals. Oh, but we got this. You need to do this. It's all bullshit. Oh, well, we need more money. Look at all these homeless. And people agreed to all kinds of different initiatives. What happened to all the money? Well, we're watching right now what happened. People are dying in the street. I mean, you got these proposals where they were laying out $1 million per person in some instances. Somebody pulled up that. I was looking at some of that. And it's really, really bad. And so part of the software stuff that I'm working on, or at least I'm working on it still, but not like I was before. Which would show criminal intent. See, these people understand. They have a way that they do an impact. You do an impact report. Now you have a whole bunch of AI systems. You make a proposal, it'll do an automatic impact report for you. It's kind of interesting. So there's a lot of different types of these different AIs and whatnot that'll do stuff. And a lot of them would seem very annoying when you look at the list of all these different things that have to happen. So you also end up with a list of, they want you to create all these extra offices, regulations, inspectors, all this other stuff, and create a whole bunch of businesses. But then you have, in some cases, people are going, hey, some of these businesses, they're phony. They're unnecessary. You don't need to do that. You don't need to create 39 new businesses around this certain other issue to do it. So this is another way that they can suck money out. And then they could end up hooking up certain people. Certain people are special. Oh, we'll make sure that these people get that business. So you're looking at all these phony creations of businesses, and a lot of them all have to do with basically um, forms of analysis. Actually, a lot of it, yeah, a lot of it. That's what it is. So how do you do that? Well, you do that with computers now. In other words, these people, and they're still doing it. They just keep creating things, and they already know that those positions don't need to be done, because if you actually need an evaluation in that area, AI can handle all of that bookwork for the most part anyhow. So we're on the verge of having AI be able to do all of these other things. I mean, I'll tell you the big one right now. With AI right now, I can eliminate 90% of the office jobs that the state of California has. 90% of them. Just get rid of them and go straight to automatic computer systems. And these are systems that are different. They're not the ones that are like, oh, you pick up the phone and they're designed to endlessly give you the runaround. That's a lot of what they do. That's how they blacklist you. One of the ways they blacklist you is they basically get you to go around. Like, you might notice that if you use a certain phone, your district can get blacklisted. Some sort of message service is currently not available. You use a different phone, you get right through. It's like, what's going on? Well, that's blacklisting various areas of phones. So if your phone has the wrong code, but how can you have the wrong code, right? How can you have the wrong code, but they're going to blacklist you based on that? See, they can rapidly change these systems and say, oh, well, what we're going to do right now is we're going to deny services in this one area and in this other area. And they'll run around and change it. After a while, they'll go, oh, we got a big hole over here, and we've been blocking these different, but we'll turn it on for a while. So on, off, So there's a lot of different ways they can do it. So they can do area code, they can do prefix, they can do some other things, like they can disqualify certain types of number groups on the last 4 digits of your phone number, so certain people can. All these different ways that they can do these things. The computers will allow it to be done, to be manipulated that way. So now they have a system where they have computers to decide who's the in people, who's the out people. And they can keep manipulating, basically, by destroying your communications. So now you have this situation where you have mass demographic weapons in full operation. So these people are not interested in stimulus plans. When you're running for office, the idea is supposed to be a competition for people who have the best stimulus plans, who has the best method to promote prosperity, who has the best method to promote the common welfare. Now, what some people don't understand, the common welfare is a fare that's an economic fare. Let's start here for you. Think that you're going to go to a local farmer's market, a little local weekend event or parking lot event, little area, and you're going to trade food, right? But there's other stuff there, right? That's where you start at. See, that's an economic fare, okay? And so you want to do more than that. It's going to end up being whatever things can be. And so it's all about the wellness of your finances. So a welfare is about positive promoting and good, fair business deal locations and areas to be able to work deals with people. Yeah, it's not about food stamps. So here you have this where are these people doing this? Not really. They'll come up with an item here or there. Yes, here's our token economic effort right here. So as they do this, basically, they're basically controlling mass demographic weapons and mass demographic fraud. It's a mass fraud ring. We're talking RICO beyond comprehension. of what they're doing, the way they do it. And it's all about them stealing, you see. And their underlying thing is memeism. It's about themselves, themselves, themselves. They eat their own. They eat their own. They destroy their own. So it gets into, well, who's getting promoted? See, that's what gets interesting, is to see who gets promoted. And it's it's the best communists and socialists on the board that starts getting promoted. I'm not kidding. But some people don't understand how that works. The Royal German Empire created communism and socialism, and since they did that, they got into basically obtaining data, stealing data, getting it any way they could by hook or crook. So one way or another, they'd get the data and they weaponized it. And to this very day, we got 300 million people dead now, connected to the new engineering design system that the Royal German Empire did. You got all these universities. They're heavily, all that scholastic material is heavily influenced by Royal German Empire stuff. So, you look at medicine, you find it there, psychology, you find it all over the place there. All these different places, and they're working with all these so-called European philosophies and stuff like that. But we have American philosophy here. See, we have American rules and regulations, or at least we used to. So, when you look at the original demographic notations, designs, lectures of how they want to destroy and destabilize areas, it's really important. And it's easy to identify this pretty much. You look at all these European items that are talking about unions and fair wages and this and that. And people go, what's important? We have to do this. This is the only thing we can do. Well, first of all, keep in mind that a lot of things that happened in Europe, look at the map, look at Europe, and then understand that rapidly, all the land was getting occupied, getting used, getting claimed. So all the land got claimed. So then you end up with these vast areas where there's no more land opportunities for people. There's no more growth opportunities, say. So that means basically that people become, how does that work? There is only one way that works. People have to become slaves. So people become slaves. So, but you can relabel. We'll relabel. We'll call people workers. How does that? We'll just call people workers. Well, there was workers before. Yeah, but now we're combining the reality that they're actually slaves, and we're going to burn them. So serfs, which were workers, become slaves, so forth, etc., yada, yada. So we didn't want anything to do with that problem. Yeah, why would we want to deal with an area of where there was no longer any opportunity? So this is where Europe has been having people constantly fighting over fairness. You have people looking at stuff. Well, we have to find a new area where we think people cheated us. They pulled some BS. They cheated us. Yeah, of course some people got cheated. You had people run around and commit genocide. Genocide was a common item in Europe, really common. And I mean, you end up having the World War II, we need breathing room, growing space. You used to have the Austrian-German Empire, and this thing was massive. Austria, Germany, Prussia, it was massive. But then people decided to say, we're penalizing you, less territory, and these other people are going to come with us because they want nothing to do with your criminal intent. This is part of what happens when you start looking at the maps to understand how these maps kept changing things and how Germany kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. People were leaving. They wanted nothing to do with it. You have the same thing happening in the Austrian Empire where people are breaking into different areas and groups. This goes on. So we wanted nothing to do with that. See, we have our own philosophies. You don't need communism or socialism in this country. We have our own different types of items and enlightenment and opportunities. So as we have people, from example, then in Europe, we're trying to claim, you have certain people, they were claiming to own all the land. So you have all these different demographics and stuff. But what ended up happening with the RGE is they decided to puppet everything at the same time. They wanted no surprises. So we're going to control all factions. Oh, this is somebody's built a new faction. Oh, great. Let's send some players in, infiltrate it, become members, And then here we'll use experts to help them become popular, and then we'll go in and assassinate the other parties who are created or running it and destabilize it so that we can end up having the people that we choose running everything. And that's exactly what they did. So they ended up running communism, socialism. So you have Karl Marx, he was a paid German spy. So all these people are scratching their head, they look at all this data. How does this work? Wait a minute, what's going on here? No surprise, okay? No surprise. It's understanding how all the tactical, how all the players have a way that they work together. There's a certain level where everybody's known. If you're building a game, let's say you're building a game. So for those of you real quick that may not understand, if you're building a game, the game understands all the cogs. It understands all the wheels, all the characters, all the actors, everything, okay? So what you end up with is certain people that would be at a standpoint where they could see everything. And people go, you mean government? Well, kind of, sort of, that's a good way to look at it. You could call it government, but how do you make it work? See, when you get other people that are also smart, they're like, oh, we know what's going on. So they cut them in for deals. So you cut people in for deals. Marxism is a franchise. That's a Royal German Empire franchise. They built it. They helped create it. Marx is on the payroll. He's a spy. He's also on the payroll for the syndicate. So these are the real realities that we have to deal with this material. So European philosophies are long-term in many areas where they want to claim that private property ownership is okay, but the reality is only certain people want to own the land. Well, only us can own the land. Screw these other people. Let's work them off and burn them. So if we jump back over the United States, 1776, the average longevity was 38 years. You could live to be 38 years, statistical average. That's basically seven structures. This is a serious average that came out per person. Plenty of land, plenty of ways to build things. So people were going to retire, kind of, sort of, semi-retired, mostly by maybe age 26, 25, 26. Then things would kind of move smoothly. I mean, basically, they would work for a certain amount of time. They'd basically own their land, own a farm, own the ranch, own whatever, and they would hire the people and just kind of run things a certain way. And a lot of that would deal with part-time people. You'd had seasons you'd work with, so. And when you needed laborers, in some cases, a lot of people would use fresh meat. People coming in from Europe to basically come in and do different things, like work. But you had a lot of different players. You had a lot of different people. They wanted to vet people. They wanted to sort people in different ways. It's important. So you have different groups that would do things a little bit different, So you had all of this stuff that evolved from the original colonialism, the original colonist. And there's no such thing as the original colonist. The original colonist is a lot of different groups of people, okay? A lot of different mindsets there. So these people group together, and the idea is, yes, we're protecting community, and yes, we gather together to make a fort for security, but we're also going to keep moving outward and deal with these other items as needed, basically. So you got a lot of other things that are really important, and it deals with a lot of things that are crucial. We had a lot of ways. You usually had these buildings. Some people they would share buildings. They would build a church, and sometimes the stewards would use the church or the community building, yada yada. These would change and evolve, and eventually you had certain types of areas. A lot of times, by the way, bars or pubs or whatever, they would become a meeting place for people. And there were different types of meetings in different places. And as the buildings and structures evolved, and there would be more of them, different locations would be utilized. So you would also end up having the stewards, basically. So the stewards would meet in different places at different times. And part of what they wanted to do is sort. They wanted to vet people. They were always interested in sorting more people. Why? They wanted to keep the colony moving outward and strong. You want people to settle the land. You want people to manage the land. So you are always looking for people, and that's where you'd have a lot of these land stakings at. So growth and common sense items, let's try to be efficient and all that stuff, is what you wanted to do. And ideally, you always want to keep perpetuating new construction, because land was land. It was everywhere. It was almost worthless. So you end up with situations where basically what you really want is real estate. You want developed land. And that was called real estate, because people would build estates. So the term real estate actually roots into understanding that it's real, which means that's what's of true value. You appraise versus new construction, okay? And that's what you justify printing your notes on. You take the notes in promissory blocks and you do big business deals with them. That's when you do all kinds of very creative business deals, buying lots and lots of people's products, usually deals with things like import-export, a lot of other different things. You have people accept monies in the towns. And then you have to have a back toe where you're going to convert it sometime. In other words, you take products, you go to them, you say, look, we will buy all of your furniture. We had some genius forefathers. This was the incredible, if we go back to one of the most incredible areas, we had a period between 1870 to about, well, it actually went beyond 1812, but we can talk about it. Because what was happening was we had certain stewards, certain forefathers who were brilliant. And what they would do is they would buy all the goods. They got to the point, we'll help get you money, guarantee you money, always guarantee you money. The deal was we're supposed to always be guaranteed access to the treasury. But the Revolutionary War was the problem with that. There wasn't money available for certain things. And there were certain blockades, so forth, etc. Okay, so after that kind of calmed down a bit, then we could start focusing on, now we can start focusing on building assets and treasury. So as that started happening, they would run around and people would be building like crazy. And people go, we don't have enough wood. The forefather would run out and find people that had land with trees on it. And so, you got a lot of trees here. Yeah. Says, well, how about building a lumber mill here? Oh, well, if I only had a saw wheel, and I'll get that for you. I'll fix that. Okay. I'm serious. This is our forefathers, And then they go to somebody else and it's like, I see you're making furniture. It's really good. Hey, you got a really good assembly line style. And they're like, yeah, if I could find a way to get the stuff to market, So the guy'd say, can you increase production 300%? And he goes, could you get me the laborers? And by the way, I don't have any money to expand. I need a whole nother structure here. I'll get you that. I'll fix that. So here you have these operations where our forefathers were genius. And some of the forefathers weren't genius. They would be furious. They would start screaming at each other. What are you doing? What are you involving yourself in all this commerce? And the other forefathers would be like, I don't think you understand. The deal is that the Republic is to facilitate us, similar to an East Indies style country. The British company? Well, this is our own company, and we get guaranteed access, unlimited, to the U.S. Treasury. Well, there's almost no money in the Treasury. Well, we're trying to fix that. So, because we took all the appraisals away from the British. It was a big deal. No more appraisals for the British to justify printing notes. We snagged that. Whoop! That was the big deal, Again, you got to remember, the revolution, when people were pissed, it's like you build a building and they come along and make notes and justify the printing of cash. And you're going, well, these people are making bank. Whatever I build, they're going to print at least half or 70%, sometimes 100%, sometimes even more, currency. So in other words, if you built a building that was worth $1,200, they would try to find a way to print $1,200, use it as justification. And they would use the money in investment. And when bankers would want to come in Europe and look at their justification, they go, well, this is our colony out here. Here's the new development of the assets there. We're declaring this way and justifying this much print. And we're going to do business deals with you. And they'd run around and they'd buy products wholesale. Okay, well, our forefathers knew this. They figured this out too. So they would run around buying products from people, and they'd run around insanely asking people, please, we want to increase your production. And it's like, well, if I only I'll fix that. But I'll fix that. Whatever it was, it would get fixed. So what happened was we started exporting mass quantities of products, an awful lot of furniture, by the way, a whole lot of furniture. And we were building warehouses like crazy for people to put the stuff in. And other forwarders came in, what are you doing? What are you doing? You've told these people you're going to buy all their stuff and that you're shipping it here. You're building these warehouses. You're putting it. There's nobody here to buy that furniture. What are you doing? And other forefathers have to come up and say, look, dude, and dude over here are kind of busy. Okay, don't bother them here. Come over here. I'll try to explain this to you. Look, we're setting this up for an import-export type operation. And what you need to be is either understanding or be quiet, because if you don't understand, you need to step out of the way and let those of us who know what we're doing take care of business. Okay, we're the deal doers, and we're going to do these deals. You just basically need to watch. You can watch and you'll learn something. So now we have that situation moving forward where forefather to go down to the docks and say, okay, we've got ships coming in, and you walk up to a captain and say, hey, look, I got a deal for you. What's the deal? I need you to find 3 more captains with 3 more ships. Oh, you want me to do that? Yes. And I'll give you 10% of their trip fees. 10%. Yeah. Of their whole year's worth, because I want them for a whole year. Exclusively. A whole year. Yeah. We got some more here. Look, I got some guys here. We got some documents. And he's looking at these documents. Wait a minute. This document says these guys are a witness that the pirates stole my cannons. Look, I'll give you twice what it costs for new cannons for your used cannons today. And these guys are certified witnesses. You can do this. But the British have it under blockade. We can't bring anything like that here. Oh, come on, guy. Look, it's all safe. It's all clean. It's not a problem. Come on, you can do it once. Just once. Come on, just once. Think about it. Oh, all right, I guess I could do it once. So all of a sudden we had brilliant forefathers, and they were buying and stashing cannons all over the place, and some of the other forefathers didn't know about it, and they started screaming about it once. And then after the war, 1812 war started, they come in crying, you better tell us you got at least 300 more cannons because we need them now. And they came up and says, oh, yeah, we got 3 right here. And they started crying, oh, no, oh, thank God, thank God. Then they turn around, oh, yeah, and we got 1,200 more cannons over here. Ah, we just won the war. Oh, my God, we just won the war. Yeah, so all of a sudden, here comes brilliance and people who thought ahead and knew what they were doing. So this fantastic growth period was coming on as we were hiring every ship we could get our hands on. This basically meant that literally you'd have pirates come in. The pirates would come in, I hear you need ship captains, and you're paying twice the going rate for the captain. That's correct. Okay. Would you like to sign up for a year? Well, yes. I see the way you're dressed and the way your ship is. I want you to go over here with Martin. I want you to talk with Martin privately. Have a few drinks. Off they'd go. Now that dealt with special operations sometimes, special things. So a lot of things could be done. We even did little acting jobs, pretend jobs, where people saw these little things where guys were firing cannons and this and that, and capturing ships and this and that, and then another ship had come in. Oh, they ran away. We're capturing it. They ran away. So we did a lot of really weird things that are really, really hard to find. These little teeny tiny fragments. And, this is where our forefathers were brilliant, I mean, we had the British putting embargoes, and we needed to get around them. They said, no technology. And we said, that ain't going to work for us. So all of a sudden, we had the brilliance kick in where people are going to forefather, what are you doing? He says, I got 20 ships that arrived today. It says, you got cargo for them. What's going on? I says, oh, yeah, we got plenty of cargo. I just hope I can get more in time for the next group that's coming in 3 days. What? And so the guy's running out and says, yeah, he says, we just filled up that whole warehouse last night. You what? What? So all of a sudden, these guys are just doing all this really creative stuff. It's real simple. They walk out, you go to the furniture guy, says, look, I have paper here. Okay, look, this is U.S. paper. This is a good note. Oh, I don't like paper. Look, I promise that you'll be able to come in and get some money. I'll tell you what. I will allow you to come in and get 2% tomorrow, trade in 2%, and get coin. Oh, what is it you want to do? I want everything in your warehouse, and I want you to build 10 times that. Can you get it done by the end of the week? Well, if I'll take care of that. But I'll take care of that. Okay. Yeah, John, got it on the notes? Okay, here we go. Look, everything's fine. Yeah. Hey, tell you what? Can you add another shift? I don't have workers. I'll take care of that. No problem, John. Yeah, nice. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we got notes going. All of this is going to happen really fast, really fast. So you had them trading currency, paper, to buy goods that were being made, and these people were being more ingenious, And then you had another guy come along, Joe. Look, Joe. Joe, I'll give you $50 in silver. I want you this week to go train all these other people got furniture makers, how to do assembly lines, like the one you saw over up at Joss's. I will pay you. No, you just look, if Josh complains, you just send him to me. I'll take care of it, okay? All right, here you go. Thank you. So now all of a sudden, you're having upgrades being sponsored by our forefathers to massively create more and more products. What ended up happening in a very short period of time, in 10 years, what we started ended up having 50% of the entire shipping of the world coming to the United States. They were coming to the United States because these guys were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They do all kinds of deals. That guy come up and say, hey, man, I found a deal, man. This country's like really hurt. They got a bunch of stuff they auctioned off. Really? Well, let me see what they got. Yeah, I got a partial list here. Oh, well, I'm willing to pay 7% more on all of that right there. And I'll send a purser with you. So they were buying products from other places that wanted to get rid of stuff and then relaying them to other ports. We're talking do the deal. Do those deals. So this is how everything works. Now, you want to talk about the currency. You say, well, now all of a sudden, you got the guys, they go across ocean. They're at the other areas. They get people. They send out people to run around. And they come down. People come down. They look. We want choice. Going to take a look at your stuff. Want the choice. So they pick out their choice. The best looking stuff, how the wood ran, the grain, the whole thing. Then after that, it's like, it's kind of left over. They got choice. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, take the rest off to the auction houses and sell it regardless of loss. And we're like, oh, that's crazy. Just do it. And get paid in coin. They go to the auction, everything sells. And, okay, you want this? He says, you want the check or you want the promise on the bank? We want. And the guy says, we want coin. Says, you want corn? We don't have any gold right now. We can get you silver, but you got to drop 5% on the silver. Unless, of course, you want pennies for all. But that's a lot of bags of pennies. We'll give you that direct if you want that. We'll take the pennies direct. So all of a sudden, this guy's got a voucher, goes down to the bank. Boom, he's riding back in a wagon to the ship, and he's got nothing but pennies. So you had people that were like incredibly pissed because we were coming into port and unloading these bags of pennies. It was insane, and it was going into the treasury. And you had port boss, what are you doing? And this and that. And we ended up having 3 special treasuries, 3 buildings. We had the formal treasury, and we had these special buildings, and almost nobody can figure this out, that we did this. So this was the way we were, and we had some troops around them. So you had people coming down. We got a note exchange. He goes, oh, right on here. And the guy looks around and he says, well, what do you want? And the guy's like, I was thinking of pieces of gold. A little short on gold right now. Silver, not so much there. The guy looks at it and says, I can only give you, let me see, this is good for 2%. That comes out to yada, yada, yada. I can only give you 10% of that in silver, and the rest you got to take in pennies. Pennies. And the guy's like, hold on. The guy comes, hold on just a moment here. Yep, got another load coming in. Hey, another load. Yeah, there's an extra load. We got 2 extra loads come in. Oh, we got 2 loads. Come outside. Just looking. Oh, okay. Come back. So I said, tell you what. He said 2%. I'll tell you what. I'll let you cash in 5% of that note if you take in all pennies. I'll give you 1-to-1. Think about it. Okay, I guess I could do that once. So this guy's going to haul up all these pennies, And they started doing this all over town. And what happened real quickly is there were pennies everywhere. And then you had penny sorting houses. We had some of these sorting houses. And the poor guy goes, what is all these pennies? And he goes, and the guy says, quiet. And the guy says, okay. Didn't want to lose count. Yeah. We're sorting them. Why are you sorting them? Because these pennies are 10% silver. They're 10% silver. That's right. And silver's going to go up in price. So we're going to melt these down. We're going to resmelt these. Okay? And we're going to get the 10% of silver out of them. And then we're going to use the remaining to build our new pennies, our new coins. And okay, the guy's looking at it and he says, wait a minute, you mean this stack right here, that 10% of that by weight becomes silver? Yeah, that's what happens. So the brilliance of what we did, getting a hold of different types of metal, because a lot of metals were mixed back then. So you had copper, bronze, brass, all kinds of stuff. So it was buy goods for paper and get coin for it. And at first, it was really insane. Yeah, we were buying pennies, and the British and a lot of people in the world, they couldn't figure it out. They could not figure it out. There was a question of whether or not we had basically obtained close to 20% of the pennies of the entire world. There's a rumor about that. And so we were going because we knew that certain older coins had more silver content in them. And so we were going to resmelt everything. So there was a lot of action there. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. If you got 100 pounds of pennies and all of a sudden 10% of it is silver, that means you got 10 pounds of silver in there when you resmelt it. So that'll give you a good idea. So these are what our forefathers did. So we had the most lucrative period ever. And when the British started figuring out what we were doing, they were getting upset. Yeah, they started pinching sailors. They started stopping ships and first, you have to come by Britain first before you go to America and pay your tax. Oh, you say you own the entire ocean now, huh? You either do it or else, And then that wasn't working so well. People were renegating it, running to America. And so then you had these other things that still wasn't working. So they start pulling ships over and say, you're in violation. And the guy says, I got a good attorney. You're not going to catch me in any violation. My paperwork's straight. I know you're doing the deal. It's going to America, and some of this cargo is going to stay there. My paperwork says it's going elsewhere, and I got a good attorney. And this says, well, I see here you got a whole bunch of sailors. Yeah, right here. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Grab these guys up right here. These are deserters. Take these guys off this ship right now. So they were poaching a bunch of sailors off people's ships, and this was becoming a problem because literally, we got to the point where 50% of the ships themselves, were coming to America because we were paying and offering the best deal. Because we were buying products with paper and converting them into coin. And as time would go on, we would change the deals. I'd say, we don't want 1-for-1 pennies. We'll pay the 5% less and get silver this time at this auction. So now they're starting to bring in silver. People started feeling really good when larger amounts of silver started showing up in the country. And matter of fact, as in really good. And this started flipping out the British spies. They took that back and oh my goodness, what's going on? This is crazy. So this is the ultimate. Studying this area lets you understand the ultimate in creative financing that's incredibly solid. It's a massive business growth area. I mean, they literally get to the point where the forefathers were running around telling people, hey, we need you to increase your production 300%. And they're like, there's just no way. I can't do it. you know, so I go, we'll find a way. I can fix whatever's wrong. And they go, I don't think you can. So all of a sudden this was part of the big flood. People don't understand it. It's kind of interesting. So if we jump back to what's going on here, particularly in California, we have mass criminal operations. We have the courts. We have prosecutorial agencies. They are making, there's this huge industry. We have Sheriff John running around doing all these things, and we have virtually nobody playing Robin Hood, so to speak. So these people, if you find a Robin Hood, I virtually guarantee you it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's about the way that works. So the thing is what we have is mass destabilization of your lives, your businesses. We don't have there is no mass stimulus. These people don't know how to do it. I know how to do it. My economic models beat the snot out of everybody. In fact, I beat the snot out of everyone in the world. I am the world's best mass economic model. And people go, what? I says, yeah. Now, the sad thing about this is I keep talking about things. People, well, you should publish more. That's really neat. I'm sure the Chinese really liked some of the ideas that I laid out over the course of the last 2 decades that did not get adopted by the United States. But China decided that some of them were pretty darn good. Now, about the shame that some of you should feel at this point because you don't understand. I mean, my last run for governor my last 2 runs for governor were dealing with people who were cheating. They were cheating in elections. Cheating. And this is part of the problem. See, they're attacking candidates, archives, smart people. They're violating national security. They're literally violating national security. It's mind-boggling. These are national security violations that collectively are way beyond the Rosenblums. In fact, just them attacking my archive is beyond the Rosenblums. Way. So these people are just going to keep bold-facedly lying and just doing their acting job until we step up and start arresting them. Because they're ridiculous. See, they want to delete evidence. They want to deny the fact that they got evidence. And this is something that we repeatedly do. I've been doing it for decades. People in California, some of them higher up hate me. You're the one that's getting all those people to record us committing crimes. So what? The law says the moment people start committing felonies, you can record them. Did you know that? At least it used to. So, by the way, California laws basically are trash now. The United States Supreme Court said that supremacy. Okay, so California doesn't use wide scope, they don't use federal law, and they don't use the Constitution. All of those are now mandatory, okay, because the findings are that the considerations were improper. This basically means that literally millions of cases are basically, wrong, invalid, illegal, not constitutional. Millions and millions of cases. So I immediately advise all California citizens to seek attorney's advice effective immediately. And you might even have a hard time even finding an attorney that understands the recent changes. Because basically these people have been railroading people so long, it's mind-boggling. So ethics-wise, here's the thing. I don't believe for 1 minute that judges and prosecutors don't watch the news, that they don't, as parties of superior knowledge, have a way to understand some of these things that have been happening, that they don't understand that genocide's been going on, that they don't understand that major constitutional items are going on, that they're effectively being ordered to violate the Constitution of the United States, and many of these laws are false. They're false, they're wrong, they're unfair, they're ridiculous. Because this is a big, huge collection machine designed to completely destroy your lives, to steal your time away from you endlessly. We have people that are spending 30 days in government buildings, 30 days a year in government buildings dealing with whatever paperwork has to be done. This is genocide. You can't. So I'm going to revet people. I'm going to say, first of all, it's going to be a master overhaul. We're going to see who got screwed, basically, out of stuff. And it's the simplest thing. for me to say, yeah, oh yeah, you're in line for compensation. Well, as we're going to work for that, we're going to do a preliminary prejudgment, and the way we're going to do that is, if that comes out good, we're going to hook you up with an immediate new construction loan. We're going to do things to get you solid right away, right away. So we're going to change a lot of things, you know. So now, if you just happen to be, you know, like Jack the Ripper, sorry, got nothing for you. So it's really important to understand these things, because at this point, we have people that are doing things, and it's becoming a problem between some of the candidates, maybe kind of, sort of, not sure, just not sure, because I'm going to move forward no matter what happens, because these people committed treason. We don't have an election, people. There is no election. You might call it an election. No. Have I been compensated the $5.8 billion that I'm owed? You know, has my fleet been restored? The tools that I would use as a candidate so that I can get a dozen RVs out there going to various centers, introducing you people to AI that's going to literally repair your entire life? Gee, that's not happening just yet, right? Wow, why is that? Because the state doesn't want to pay me the money they owe me. They've attacked voter equipment. They have committed felonies on scales that are mind-boggling. And we have mass dereliction of duty by the courts and the prosecutorial offices. This never, ever goes away. Me and a lot of people got together, and we're really smart. And we figured out ways to make sure that all this evidence never goes away. So we keep catching these people repeatedly, deleting evidence and violating the law, violating the Constitution, as people keep coming in, telling their stories, as these people keep coming in and out of work every day. They watch the news, they understand what's going on, they know genocide's going on, and they have violated their oath. They violated their oath. They've seen stuff with their face all over the place, and they have not moved for forward action to take care of things, but they claim to have superior knowledge. I don't excuse them. They are not excused. And when I go into court, or when somebody like me goes into court and says, these people did this, the chronological order says this has to be fixed first. And then you have to hear them go turn into Bozo the Clown. Oh, it's not going to be a court of record. No, we're not going to record anything. No, we're not going to go after the government. No, it doesn't matter how many tens of millions of dollars, or if they disabled you or anything. I'm not going to put up with that bullshit for 1 minute. It is not going to happen. Okay, I'm going to put people in prison. I will not excuse them. You know, I mean, and I got plenty of people immediately told me the truth on the side, and I says, okay. So I got a whole bunch of, I'll tell you right now, I got a whole bunch of people turn state's evidence. Whole lot of cops, whole lot of different government employees. And this has been going on for decades, okay? A whole lot of them, they're turning state's evidence. Now, I can't tell you who they are. I've got other people who tell us who they are. No, I can't tell you who they are, because the first thing you're going to want to do is punish them. And that ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen. So I'm just saying, you know, because I'm the seven home guy. You know, most people, the majority of people, over 50% in this state, are going to be able to immediately begin a new journey in life to be able to build 7 brand new constructions. That's 7 new homes. Somebody wants shops, whatever. It's going to work. It's going to work, because I'm going to bring back some of the original brilliant stimulations that were invented respective to economics that our forefathers did. And I've already worked with the model again and again and again, and it works. It works very well. And in fact, the Chinese have used much of it as they propelled mass development of their country. But we have a bunch of people running around like Marxists and socialists, deliberately trying to destabilize your life. You can't become more successful if they keep walking up and sticking a gun in your face and stealing your stuff. I'm sorry, we just want 20% of your savings. Oh, and 5% a year. But my interest rate is only 4.4%. That's not our problem. But I've already counted. I've been texted on it 6 times. No, you don't understand. It's going to be the law. The end, people. The end. Okay, what they're doing is treason. You cannot violate people's faith. See, some people's wisdom of management of storehouses and savings comes along a certain line. So they're violating people's religion. You can't allow people to do this. It's a violation of their religion. No joke here. No joke. So this is going in. You know, I'm not going to tolerate this. And I'm going to bring my designs of AI online, even though these people keep destroying my computers. Why? Gee, would it have something to do with it? It reveals their criminal intent and their massive demographic use and massive overlapping demographically to keep destroying your lives. And I end up with an exact identification of who did what, where, and when. Gee, isn't that neat? Wow, we're running in my mass model, and you get to see all the victims of who it's going to squash. I could come up with a list of names of people that'll get squashed. And these people know this. They know this. These people are criminals. They have no intent to stimulate the economy. They're only dedicated to destabilizing the country. And they're bringing in as many foreigners as they can. A lot of these foreigners, they're communists, they're socialists. They have nothing to do with being loyal constitutional capitalists. They can never, ever be allowed to vote until after they're properly vetted. And just because you've been here a certain amount of time does not guarantee that you have the proper mindset. You have to be invited. This was a Stewart's thing. We have people that keep abusing what the right to vote is and what the issues that are supposed to be done and dealt with. So I want to thank you for your time. I've got a bunch of calls I have to catch on. I have to go.